This is the third video of its kind, reviewing my students' essays to the Indispensable Opposition, which is the FRQ 2009 Form B. So my students wrote an essay in response to this prompt, and what I've been doing for the past three videos is responding to their writing, talking about the different points that they can earn. The first was the thesis point, then the evidence and elaboration, evidence and commentary point, and this video is about sophistication. So the goal here is to talk about how you can earn a sophistication point. And what I've done is that I've exerted sentences from my students' writing in order to show you what qualifies as sophistication. Okay, so in order to get a 1 in sophistication, here are some of the things that the College Board expects you to do. All right, they want you to do any of the following in order to receive or demonstrate sophistication and receive 1 point. Demonstrate a complex understanding of the text, compose a nuanced thesis, display understanding of a broader rhetorical situation, show awareness of other arguments, recognize the complexities of the text, discuss original rhetorical strategies, or write in a style that is especially attractive in its composition. While the thesis point is technically, not technically, but it is much easier to earn that 1 point, because as long as you have a claim and something that looks like the writer did this with the help of these rhetorical strategies, they qualify that as a thesis, so you get a point. For the evidence and commentary, that's where you can get most of your points, right? Because you can get up to 4 points. But the sophistication point, it's a very difficult point to earn. Now, there's one thing that we cannot forget about the sophistication point. It is not awarded based on a single sentence within the entire essay. You have to demonstrate that this is something that is purposeful and is something that is continued throughout the writing. So let's look at some examples and what I consider are moments of sophistication throughout my students' writing. So in response to the Indispensable Opposition, FRQ, these are some of the sentences that stand out to me. Okay. So this ideology that freedom of speech is a gift bestowed upon us by our forefathers is one that Lippmann feels is completely invalid. Instead, he feels that it is a crucial aspect in our society. This sentence has a lot of voice, qualifying the gift bestowed upon us forefathers, right? Shifts the attention into what Lippmann is really trying to say, which is this is crucial. It isn't a gift as if somehow we didn't have it and now here you go. No, it's ours. It is a right, not a gift. So that is something that your reader will look for, your voice, be able to hear you in your essay. All right, here's an example of sophistication in the case of added explanation. It is through personable examples that he is able to stress the significance of truly lending an ear to the opposition, rather than simply tolerating their right to have a dissenting view, given that without doing so, society cannot continue progressing. Now, this is an example of added explanation, meaning the writer here, the student writer, writes his or her response to a portion of the text and then adds further explanation, further analysis, which helps you understand Lippmann, meaning the writer of that text, and helps you characterize the situation a little bit more. Now, here's an example of ethical and philosophical concerns which the student writer raises, meaning the writer is aware of the philosophy of the morality of the issue. Unfortunately, as there are many across the world who suffer without this freedom, we cannot continue to live under this fallacy that we are warriors protecting anyone's freedom except our own. Now, this is a conclusive thought, obviously, and I know that it is unfair to them in some ways because I am excluding what came before and what comes after, and I'm only highlighting a portion. But this conclusive thought is able to do just this, present a philosophical concern to the text. Okay. Personality and confidence. This is important for writing. You have to demonstrate maturity as a writer. This metaphor is slightly humorous, and with its humor ridicules how we consider the opinion of another. No opinion is worth more than the other, so why are we only tolerating another's belief when we should be defending it as we defend our own? Now, if the entire essay was like this, then you would call it opinionated and unfounded, and you don't have evidence. Right, but this writer does have evidence. This is a moment where the writer breaks away from the evidence and gives you some sort of personality, right? Gives you a personal criticism. And it's okay to do that from time to time. You demonstrate engagement with the text this way, right? So Here's a meaningful outside connection that this writer makes. This is because if it were not for our freedom to speak our opinion, then we would be run by others and oppressed. This is evident in nations who are under communistic rule like Cuba, China, and Venezuela. In these countries, those who speak out against the government are imprisoned, and those who don't are subject to cruel laws and never have a true sense of freedom. Now, this is an example of breaking away from the text. It is never recommended for a student writer to talk about his or her own personal experiences in this essay, or to talk about things outside of the text, right? The only thing that matters is the text, because the job is to analyze that text. Right, yeah, but if you're able to analyze the text, which this writer did, and then break away from that text and make an outside connection to demonstrate that you understand the issue not only in the context in which it is provided, but you understand the issue in the context of your own life or your own history, that counts for something. But, you can't do that too often, right? An awareness of historical context is another example. Here are two examples of that. Amidst of a political tense climate, not only nationally but globally, Lippmann shares how one cannot only tolerate but respect what those disagree with us have to say. Lippmann is writing at a time when the world is either at the brink of war or we have just begun. Now, these are two examples that recognize that Lippmann's own writing is happening at a specific time in history, meaning he is writing 1939, as we discussed in the last video, a time when the war was breaking out, right? So these two writers recognize that the war might have an impact on the whole issue, right? Here's an example of diction and style which leads to sophistication. To tolerate is not really to understand. Simply, it is the ability to lend someone a megaphone but then put headphones on to block them out. That's kind of nice. Honestly, its style is cute and attractive, and that is the kind of writing that a reader in the college world would find interesting, exciting even, right? Rephrasing the author. He is saying how if we silence the world to hear only what we want to hear, we are diminishing the purpose of freedom. It is important for you to be able to demonstrate that you understand the text in such a way that you're able to rephrase the author so that you can explain the author to me, the reader, right? This is an important thing to do. Now, showing an awareness of the effect of the strategies is particularly important. Demonstrating that I understand the effect of the strategies is incredibly important in advancing the sophistication point. So, for instance, when you look at this text, consider the awareness of the effect. Here we go. Towards the end of the passage, the author makes an extremely smart choice when he basically summarizes his entire point, his entire argument in one immaculate simile. We miss the whole point when we imagine that we tolerate the freedom of political opponents as we tolerate a howling baby next door, as we put up with the blasts from our neighbor's radio because we are too peaceable to heave a brick through the window. The awareness of the effect of the strategy right here, and again, this would be a summative example, meaning the writer would have written his or her body paragraph, and this sounds like kind of like near the end of the body. Doing something like this shows the reader, hey, the whole point of the text can be seen here in this one simile, in this one example. So that's something to consider here. Now, another example of figurative language, an anaphora, meaning in this case, you are demonstrating to your reader, you the writer in this case, demonstrating to your reader that you are able to use the tools that you are analyzing. You can't just say, look, the writer uses figurative language. You have to be able to demonstrate that you yourself use figurative language, that you yourself are able to employ these strategies throughout the text, your own essay. So, for instance, look at this example. The entirety of Lippmann's article is an attempt to ridicule those who have forgotten why freedoms exist, who deem it better to censor the opinions of speech of those who contradict their own rather than hear them out and understand concepts from all views and perspectives, who view respecting others' liberties as a choice rather than as a necessity. Now, believe it or not, this is directly from one of my student writers he writes this paragraph. I'm sorry, these sentences, right? One sentence, and in it, he's using the a figurative language example. He is using the kind of stuff that he always recognizes as aspects of good writing. He's using them himself. He's demonstrating, well, they're not the only ones that can repeat sentences for the sake of emphasis. I can do that. Look, those who, right? This is a really interesting example. Now, in short, there are some things that we want to consider when it comes to sophistication. You can earn it by having either a pattern of high quality writing throughout the entire essay that contributes to a line of reasoning, meaning you have a pattern of high quality writing, meaning you didn't just do it one time. You are consistently demonstrating high quality writing. Or you have sophistication of thought throughout the entire essay, meaning a unique perspective, a consideration of implications that other people are not considering, or a response to kind of arguments that other people are not engaging with. And that's important too, showing a thoroughness of awareness. So here are some of the takeaways from the sophistication lesson. Number 1, employ a style that is consistently vivid and persuasive. Make sure your writing is attractive and captivating. Work on employing intentional syntactical choices, meaning the whenever you write your sentences, be purposeful, not just subject predicate. Maybe a short line here and there, maybe a one-word sentence which is not grammatically correct, but whatever, who cares? In amidst a portion of sentences, a one-word sentence can be powerful, right? Beautiful, fluid sentences from time to time. Show excitement about the text you're analyzing. This is important. We, the AP readers, we're reading thousands of essays, and everyone's doing the same. The writer does this, and he uses that. And look, it's awesome. No, we need excitement. We need to feel like it got to you, right? How do I know that the text is actually that impactful? If you weren't impacted by it, right? Demonstrate that you can use figurative language too, as the last example showed, and become, which is what I really like to stress, become the rhetorical writer, right? You're looking at the writer and you're saying, look how cool he is. He does all this stuff. Well, you emulate all those things in your own writing. Emulate him. Emulate her. And in doing so, you will become a better writer. Become the rhetorical writer. All right. Thank you for listening.